Hello folks, I'm here today with the MG Cyberster GT. This is an absolute rocket of a machine. It's got 503 PS of power, a 0 to 62 time of 3.2 seconds, 725 Newton meters of torque, and a claimed WLTP range of 276 miles. It's got 150 kilowatt rapid charging, and that can get you from 10 to 80% in about 38 minutes. Styling wise, I think it's a great striking looking thing. Now MG don't expect to sell these in big numbers, but they've made this to really show you that MG haven't forgotten who they are as a brand. And you know, it used to be a brand that was about sporty experiences, and now it's become a brand that's a bit sensible, and they really want to show that they can still, you know, let their hair down when the time's right. And one of the ways they've done it is not only by giving us stupid amounts of power, not only by delivering the first two-seat convertible all-electric car, but also by adding a little bit of fun and a little bit of theatre into the mix. And this car has got a bit of a party trick. There you go. There are sensors on these doors, so if anyone parks up too close to you, you're not going to be able to open them. So that's something to bear in mind, but they would have to be extremely close. I mean, I'm standing right next to it now, and you can see it will only open that far. But if I were to stand back a bit further, there you go, it opens up. But if you're parking in a really tight multi-storey car park, this might not be the car for you. I think it's a striking looking thing from the back as well, the way the arches come out. It's got some quite interesting lights, which a straw poll of my friends suggests may be divisive. I actually really like the look of them. I think they look great, but I've found that they're not to everyone's taste. Perhaps for me, the only bit I'm not convinced about is this, where it raises up. That feels like it should be flat or lower to me. But I think it's a stunning piece of design and really a very beautiful looking car. Lovely big wheels on it as well that look great. You get 20-inch wheels on the GT version, 19-inch if you go for the lower power version. Now, luggage space is often fairly pathetic in soft top, but in this one it's really not too bad. It's only 249 litres, but that looks a lot bigger than it sounds. Often, you know, you could get a Tesco meal deal in one of these things and you're full. Not the case in here. You could definitely get a big suitcase or a few carry-on suitcases, several holdalls. I've got quite a lot of gear in here right now. I've got both the charging cables and my camera bag and some camera equipment, and it's nowhere near full. And although it's not mind-blowing, it's really quite decent for a car like this. No hint of a frunk, however. We've just got some plastic with some inspection panels. Bit of a shame. Folks, I usually talk about this as the front cabin, but it's not. It's a front cockpit because it feels like you're in a fighter jet in this thing. You've got these screens that wrap around, more on those in a sec, but everything about it wraps around you, this whole part of the dash. It feels fantastic. The build quality and the choice of materials is equally fantastic. We've got this red sort of Alcantara effect material in this one, and some leather or leatherette, I'm not sure which. And just the quality of every one of the materials feels absolutely bang on. You know, MG is a brand that's known for making affordable cars and good for the money cars. This feels like a bit of a special thing that's been very well designed and delivered. We have a tiny bit of storage down here behind the two seats and a speaker there. It has got a Bose sound system. It's okay, I've heard better, I've heard far worse. And we've got a little bit of a diffuser there to stop the wind when you've got the roof down. One thing that would have been nice is a wireless charging pad for your phone. We don't have that, and in fact the only way you can charge your phone is by plugging it in down here. That's also how you access your Android Auto and Apple CarPlay, because alas, they are not wireless. Less of an issue when you haven't got a wireless charging pad, I guess, because you probably want to plug the phone in to charge it up anyway. But there we go, first world problems as always. We've got heated steering wheel, we've got heated seats. The aircon controls are all on this screen here, but that screen never goes away. and it's really, really simple. I've only been driving the car for a week and I'm completely used to where everything is, and I can operate most of it without taking my eyes off the road. Now, to best explain all of this and how it actually performs in the real world, I'm going to give you a different view. This is the problem for me. This is the driver's view when you're actually going down the road. So you'll see, you can see this perfectly, but this screen over here is obscured, so you have to turn your head round a bit. And likewise with this one, not that you're using this one very much when you're actually driving, but it's actually a really good idea that's not been massively well executed. I think if this screen were over here and you had the vent here, that would make more sense, but then it wouldn't wrap around as much. So I'm not quite sure what the perfect solution is, but what I can tell you is it's not this one. The steering wheel's all kinds of lovely. I mean, it feels amazing. It's heated, which is nice, particularly when you've got the top down, but you've also got plenty of thumb controls and things. Everything makes sense. Everything's where you expect it to be. Got this lovely bit of metal on the bottom here, and it just feels great under the hand. It looks the mustard as well, I think. To open the doors, we've got this little rocker switch here, and you literally just tap that and up it goes. And then to bring the door down, you do the same thing, and it doesn't take too long. And then we're also going to put the roof up. What's slightly annoying with the switch on the roof is that you have to keep your thumb on it the whole time. You can't just set it. There you go, that's the roof done. I'm going to take it back down again so we've got a bit more light on the video. But you can't just press it or do a long press and then it folds itself completely away. You have to keep your hand on it the whole time, your finger on it the whole time. Again, a first world problem, but you don't have to do that with the doors, so why do you have to do it with the roof? The cup holders in this thing are awesome. I've never seen anything quite like it before, and they're so well engineered, and there's just something thoroughly enjoyable about using them. So you literally just push them down and they lock in place, and then there's a little button that releases them and up they pop again. I can't see any practical reason why you'd need that, but it's cool and I like it. I think it might be, so it might be that you're supposed to stand your phone on here, possibly, when they're up, but I don't think I'd ever do that. I think if you left it in the car accidentally, it would get nicked, especially if you had the roof down, where if it's in there, at least it's out of sight, I guess. This cabin really is a triumph. The one downside are the seats. Not the quality of the seats or the comfort of the seats, because they're superb and I think they hold you in place really nicely, which is important in a car like this. The problem is this seat is at its lowest position and as far back as it goes, and I'm only 5'9½", and this is my perfect driving position. Also, I wouldn't mind it a hair lower than it is, but if I was 6 foot, 6'2", something like that, that may be enough to stop me buying the car, because I don't know if I'd ever get into a comfortable driving position. I do have the wheel quite far forward, because that's just my preference, so you could have the wheel much further back, but again, I'm not a tall bloke and my arms are fully stretched there in that position. So that's something to bear in mind, particularly if you are, you know, much taller than me. You might not fit the car, and it's as simple as that. Obviously the seat's a little bit higher up than you would normally expect, I guess, simply because we've got batteries underneath, and we do have lots of adjustability in the seat, but really, if you've got your seat at this height, you are fairly vertically challenged, are you not? So that to me is a minor downside, but it will be a real deal breaker for some people. So I strongly suggest you plant your cheeks in one of these and go out for a test drive rather than simply ordering one because it looks great. So at this point in the video, you're probably thinking this is a bit brilliant. And I must admit, everything so far in the video has been pretty brilliant. If you're under 5'11" maybe. But let's take it out for a test drive, because that's where it really counts. I must admit, I've seen some reviews of this certainly when the car was launched. A few people got sort of really early access to one, and everyone was a bit kind of meh. Well, let me give you my thoughts on it. So what's it like behind the wheel? That's the most important thing after all, is it not? Well, first thing I'm going to say, I'm going to leave all the beeps and bongs on during this review so that you can hear what they actually like in the real world. You've got all the normal safety assistance systems that you get on pretty much every new car, and I think it's important that these things are there to serve their job and actually alert you when you need to be alerted, but not to hit you over the head with a hammer and become a massive distraction in themselves. So I'm going to leave all the bings and bongs on, and you can decide for yourself if you'd find it distracting or not. Onto the performance of the car. The 0 to 62 time in this particular car is insane. You press this red button here and it unleashes insanity. It's a 0 to 62 of 3.2 seconds. But most of the time you're going to be driving the car in comfort mode, which I'm doing right now. And it's still got absolutely bags of acceleration. And I mean, just feathering the accelerator pushes you down the road at a pace. However, you know, it's far from an on-off switch. It's really nicely weighted and very controllable with your right foot. And although this car's got that absolutely epic performance in terms of 0 to 62, at times it doesn't feel like a sports car. And that may be an odd thing to say in a two-seat convertible that does 0 to 62 in 3 and a bit seconds. But it feels more like a sporty Grand Tourer than it does an out-and-out sports car. There's a bing for you. You're not going to get the kind of sporty handling that you're going to get in something like Porsche Boxster, for example, maybe BMW Z4, but instead this has probably got more in common with something like an F-Pace. You know, that more kind of gentlemanly, refined thing that you could actually cruise across to the south of France in and get out without sciatica. It's really quite comfortable, which I didn't expect it to be. I thought this would be the hardest ride known to man, and it's not. But because of that, you just occasionally feel like the back end could come around a bit more. It's got unlimited amounts of grip, it seems. Like in the bends, you can take bends at silly speeds and you're just fixed to the road on rails, but it feels like it could just whip around a bit more. I can't quite give you the words to describe it, but it doesn't have sort of the laugh factor in the corners perhaps that you would get in some of the car's rivals, but it does offer something completely different. You know, this is the first time we've seen an all-electric two-seat Roadster, and I think they've done a phenomenal job with it on the whole. It's just a car that might not be what it first appears to be, if you get what I mean. If you are going through a midlife crisis, this has got a whiff of midlife crisis about it, and I think it would be perfectly suited to a company director going through a midlife crisis, because it's one of a kind really at the moment. What else could you get and put through as a company car that's this kind of car that delivers this kind of performance that you can take the roof down on, that's not going to take the shirt off your back when it comes to your tax burden on the back of it? And it's very, very good. It really is a nice car to drive. I've done a number of short journeys in it. I've done one longer run yesterday where I did about a 100-mile round trip, and it's just lovely. I honestly, getting out of this car, I felt just as comfortable as I would have done if I'd have done the trip in an Audi A6 or something. It really is a nice thing to drive, and it does soak the miles up. One tiny thing, when you're at motorway speed, you sometimes find yourself making a few minor adjustments, which, you know, at times when you don't feel you should be. Sometimes the front end feels a tiny bit loose. But that's probably just my hypersensitivity as I spend too long driving other people's cars. And it might not be something that you even notice, and if you did, it probably wouldn't bother you, I dare say. So we should talk about energy consumption. Obviously the car's got a very decent range on paper, but what's it like in the real world? Well, your right foot really makes a big difference. In the first day I spent with this car, I was getting about 2 miles per kilowatt hour, which is a bit pants. However, you know, it's my first day in this car that does 0 to 62 in 3.2 seconds. Since then, things have leveled out a bit, and with some, as I said, quite combined driving. I've done lots of short trips and one longer trip. At the moment, it's reading 2.6 miles per kilowatt hour as the average over the time I've had it, and that's 5 hours and 20 minutes of driving. So I don't think that's too bad for a car with this much performance. It's certainly not breaking any records, but I don't think it's hideous, all things considered. Now, this GT edition of the car has obviously got all the power, and it has also got that ultimate grip. And you know, despite what I said earlier about the handling not being as fun as it is in some of the rivals, things like Boxsters and Z4s, etc., it's very competent. It really is. And I know I said earlier it feels like you're on rails at times, but it really does work very, very well, and whatever systems they've got going on here to control it are doing the job phenomenally. They could just turn the fun up a tad for my liking, but I am picking at hairs a little bit, I think. It's not a car that you're probably going to want to throw around a track and it's going to, you know, make you laugh your head off while you're doing it or anything, but it is a car you can do long journeys in, you can do your daily commute in it, and it will behave absolutely admirably and would probably be better than its rivals in that regard. As a daily driver that can let his hair down at the weekends, I think this thing is absolutely brilliant. I really do. Folks, I love this car. It's way exceeded my expectations. It's daft, it's stupid, it's unnecessary, it's gimmicky, and I absolutely love it. I think it's a brilliant move by MG. The amount of people that have stopped me in the street and said, what is it? Or have said, oh my God, is that an MG? Because they know MG as that sensible, affordable brand that puts out cars that are good value for money. They don't possibly know MG as a bit of a sporty brand, a bit of a fun brand. This is an absolute masterstroke. They don't expect to sell many of them, but it's a signal of intent to say, we can do exciting things, we can do interesting things, we can do different, and we can do it really bloody well. And they really have. This is a very good car, and just go and test drive one, folks. I don't think you'll regret it. If you're looking at leasing one of these, there's a link in the video description that will take you to all the latest lease deals on one. That does help support the channel, so please click on that, it does help. And please subscribe to the channel if you've enjoyed this video. My reviews are not always the most professional things in the world, but they're extremely honest, and you'll always get nothing but my 100% honest opinion. Thanks ever so much for watching, folks. I'll see you on the next one. Huge thanks to all my channel members for your continued support. I really do appreciate it.